this?
Or do you want to do the roll call?
Like finish.
You want to do the roll call? Okay. Ready? Okay, we'll call this meeting to order. Roll call.
Rosario C. Cabello. Teclo Garcia.
Here.
Fred Dickey.
Here.
Mayra Hernandez. Rodney Rodriguez has been
He's on.
out of the committee.
Resign. So we need to scratch him off because he tendered his resignation.
John Villarreal.
Here.
Arturo Dominguez.
Here.
Alma Acevedo. Rafael Dueñas Jr. Here. Present. Julian Ranowski.
Here.
And District 8 is vacant.
Okay. So, gentlemen, we do have a quorum. The minutes, you have them there with you. You want to go over the minutes as of the August 1st, 2019 meeting? Give you all a
Motion to approve.
I hear a motion.
Second.
Second, Fred Dickey, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item is discussion. It's our only agenda item is presentation with possible action by the City of Laredo Economic Director Teclo Garcia on economic development initiatives considered by the City of Laredo. So, Mr. Garcia, you want to introduce yourself? I don't know if you know everybody here in the room. If not,
Let's just do introductions for record purposes. Let's go ahead.
Julian Ratnowski, Charles State Commercial.
Arturo Dominguez, I'm in the trade. I'm a U.S. Custody broker.
Okay.
John Villarreal, IBC Bank.
Fred Dickey, Border Funeral Thing.
That's the one you don't want to hire, right?
You never want to make that phone call.
No, you
Rafa Dueñas in the train industry, both transportation and import-export.
Okay.
As long as you see me, everything is lovely. As long as you can see me.
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, John. I appreciate that, and thanks for y'all being here. I'd like to start by saying I've been welcomed very warmly in Laredo. It's been a month since I started. We started on August 5th, and so I think that generally my feeling is I've been drinking out of a fire hose, for the last several weeks, trying to learn as much as I can. From different stakeholders, from department heads, from political leaders, etc., the business community, as much as I can. And the way I'm approaching the job is I'm trying to learn as much as I can before making any sort of major initiative, so I can do the right thing. And so I understand what happens, when such a move would take place, and understand the players and who's important and who can help me, etc. So that's what I'm doing. That's why I'm studying. To give an example, I've had 51 meetings in the last 21 days.
Whoa.
Not including today. And well, I guess 54 because I had 2 right before this one. Some of the Quero Road conversation that's taking place. But yeah, so I'm taking notes, meeting, circling back with some folks, doing as much as I can, working with our city managers and trying to get us on the path. And so my short-term, goals is to address some of the low-hanging fruit in terms of economic development that we can get at, and then at the same time trying to keep the back burners going for some of the bigger projects that Laredo has on its plate, things that take more time, such as transportation initiatives or a major player in construction who wants to be in the city or whatever. So I'm working on that. We're looking at certain industries that we can work with. Some of the deals that were already going that when I got here, such as the U.S. cold storage and their 312 agreement, and also some activity up in the Unitrade area. We just went to Austin with the mayor for the transportation monies that we were able to receive. So if you allow me just for a second, let me tell you about that trip. As you probably saw in the paper or read it on your own, is that TxDOT was able to allocate an additional $220 million to the Laredo area, to its Laredo district, for improvements on the loop and on 35, finishing the overpasses and expanding 35.
So the 220, is it, Laredo district, it encompasses Del Rio down to what, Zapata or?
Yes, but this particular extra money was specifically for Laredo.
Okay, so that's 220 million.
Right, an additional.
That's to completely loop it?
Right, finish off the Bullock Loop 20 to interstate standards.
And the connectors?
Yes, and then expand 59 a little bit, and then widen 35 in that choke point that it has right now, where it goes down to 2 lanes and expands to 3 more, and then to put 1 more flyover in the Spaghetti Bowl intersection over there. They're still going to lack 1 last flyover, and I forget which one it is, but with this extra money, they'll have like 5 of the 6 flyovers complete. So the mayor was able to address he was able to meet privately with the TxDOT Commission Chairman, Commissioner Bug, and then he was able to meet with, address the commission during the regular meeting. And I was there with him, and while he was there, I reached out to the Secretary of State, who I know her right-hand person. Secretary of State was just named Secretary of State. She was a Texas Workforce Commissioner before. And as you know, the previous Secretary of State was not confirmed by the Senate, and so he had to go away. And so they named a new person, and it looks like she's going to come through with flying colors. The day that she was named, I reached out to her deputy secretary, who I have a relationship with, and said, hey, we want the Secretary of State to come to Laredo before she goes anywhere else on the border. As you know, Secretary of State's responsibilities are mainly 2 things. 1, oversee Texas's relationship with Mexico, and also for all elections in Texas. So I reached out. He said, yes, let me talk to her. She said yes, she'd come to Laredo first. Couldn't give a date. I spoke to her staffer that is in charge of Mexico for her. And so we had a meeting, and we started arranging what her trip might look like when she comes here. So I was able to get that going. Number 2, I met with TxDOT's Civil Rights Division, which is not what it sounds like. They're in charge of TxDOT's contracts and bidding processes to make sure that small business and minorities get a chance at TxDOT projects, and that they're not just big. They don't just go out to big contractors. Hi.
Excuse me, I'm all winded from upstairs and downstairs. I brought mine. Who are these people? They're all meeting.
I'm sorry,
No,
I'm
it's
going to
okay.
text you, but
How are you?
there's a,
Hi, Mr. Nice to meet you.
So I was in the middle of telling them about the trip to Austin that we just took with the mayor.
Okay.
And so that third meeting I had was with the Texas Civil Rights Division, TxDOT Civil Rights Division, and they're about contracting, the small contracts and so forth. And so I asked them if they would hold one of their small contractors workshops in Laredo, because they have them around the state, and they agreed to do that. And so what they'll do is they'll come in to Laredo and rent out a space, and then work from like 8:30 to 1, where they do a couple of presentations on just how small businesses and historically underutilized businesses can get into TxDOT's letting process. And one of the sessions they'll have is they'll go through all their projects in the region, say this is everything that we're doing. And then the next workshop might be, hey, this is how you can get in as a sub, this is how you can get in as a minority, this is how you can get as a woman, et cetera, woman business. So I think that'll be really, really good. for the region, in terms of for small business especially?
Nick?
Yeah.
I know you're from the Valley area.
Yes.
I know UTRGV
Yeah.
has their Small Business Development Center, or UTRG themselves, they actually have a Government Procurement Assistance Center.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you've had a chance to meet Michael Gonzalez from the TAMA USPDC yet?
We've spoken via email, but we've missed each other. in
I'm
terms
sure
of-
there's a whole list of people we have yet to meet,
Right.
but, so that's something that I had also been pushing, because I know, TxDOT, they do their DBE seminars and all those other things like that,
Yeah.
and it's been years that I've known that they've been here.
I did this particular thing in the valley about over a year ago, and they did include, TxDOT themselves reached out to UTRGV's SPD Center and included them in this workshop. I didn't have to do it. So they're probably aware of that, so they might, but I'll ask to make sure.
Yeah, and so that's something that I'll follow up with Michael on as well, knowing that you already spoke to them,
Okay.
because there are a lot of resources, I believe, through the SBDC
Mhm.
that we could bring down here. I know years past, we've had the Southwest Minority Supplier Development Council come down. There's just not consistency in getting these groups to come, and I know that there's not necessarily the hub zones. We don't have, surprisingly, that much space in Laredo dedicated to be a hub zone. I don't know if you had a chance to look at that.
We're a living hub zone, right?
Well, I just, our business just, we're working on getting our AA certificate, and through the whole SAM.gov process and all that other stuff.
Great point to bring up. Before I could get to you, one thing that I didn't think of that that the TxDOT folks said, because I sat through the process, even though, wasn't for me, but I've sat through a couple of these workshops. And some of the things that they bring up to the small businesses is that, hey, just, for instance, one of them said, hey, think of any construction site that you see that we've had here recently. They said, and you see fencing around the, because the contractor, the general contractor is not doing that fencing. So here's a chance for you to go do the fencing. The dirt moving, the highway dividers, those are all done separately with subs and contractors, and that's what they were pitching to the small businesses. They said, if you think you can't do it, they said, you really can, just come talk to us about it. So that's the kind of opportunities that might exist. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. I mean, we just started, we were hearing what you were saying on those 30 days that you're doing, like 52.
Yeah, 51 meetings in 21
just-
days.
Our World Trade Bridge is the heart, the economic heart of this city. And Mines Road is like the organ. And we have to make that road work, turn it into a highway.
Yes.
A flyover that we need is coming out of the import lot and flying over to the left.
Over
The west.
Killing Boulevard?
On Loop 20, coming out of the import lot and flying over to Mines Road toward the west side.
All right, the Loop 20 and 35.
Oh, right off of the.
Right now,
Excuse
it's
me, that can be a chart road.
connecting Loop 20 out of the import lot, going
West
west.
into Mines
Oh,
Road,
Mines
directly in there without having
Right
to
now,
go like.
there's a big line, you get to
The
that
line.
stoplight,
I got
and
you.
it goes all the way to
Yeah.
the import lot, and nothing can be moved. So that is one of the important, I think, flyovers that needs to be created. I mean, when you're talking money,
Yeah.
I mean, we understand we can, I mean, this is the money that comes in and
Well-
out through here, and really, that's the most important thing that we need to work out, even before adding just a flyover just for the people. I mean, honestly, we'll get to there when we need. And getting to the highway standards on Mines Road, well, it's very costly. So we want to do an outer loop that is $500 million. Isn't that expensive? I mean, come on.
Yeah, no, the Mines Road does provide a challenge. It's a good problem to have, honestly, but there is a challenge. Flyovers, there's what's the name of the boulevard there where Killian comes from one side and Arquero Boulevard?
Arquero? Yeah, the one you were talking
And,
about.
and the UISD wants to build a middle school behind the Arquero, and that's causing some issues. And so, yes, we have to solve that in order to maintain our status as a very, whether it's number one or number two trade port in the country, which is the cash cow for us. So we have to be very cognizant of that, and the mayor's cognizant of that. I know at the TxDOT meeting, once you get money, right, you're getting it, but you automatically have to think, and this is my thinking, okay, what are we gonna do next? But I'll guarantee you that money, that discretionary money that we've got is very competitive. So if we're getting 200 million, granted, it's not $1 billion or $2 billion, but I'll guarantee you, because I've worked this for some time, is that the folks in Houston and Austin and Dallas noticed that, and they went to their center and go, hey, why the hell is Laredo getting 200 million? They're tiny. We better not see that again. So we have to keep fighting for what we want. We have to stay at the table.
Now, does that mean that you need to have what they call shovel-ready projects?
Oh, for sure.
Or in other words, the money is allotted, but if you don't have shovel-ready projects, that money can, theoretically, can it go to other cities?
And that's what may have happened to us. That's how we may have gotten this extra money. I didn't go through the great details, but that often happens. Hey, if Amarillo's not ready, they're still gonna get their money, but if they're not ready right now, then they're gonna move it to Tyler or to Laredo or somewhere else. So yes, that's exactly how that works.
So like the Mines
Yeah.
Road, like what Arturo's saying, Mines Road, that's a city, that's a state road,
Yes, the farm road.
1472.
the farm road, and then you've got the I guess the Loop 20 right at the entrance. So the flyover would be, and there you got the flyover there. So which one are you,
We have a flyover right now coming west on Lines, and then it goes into Loop 20. That's the flyover that we have. But we need one going out of the import lot towards my road to the left. Because if the trucks
Right.
can just make a right turn, that's enough for them. But
Yeah.
something that doesn't stop them and just turn left,
Yeah.
that would be.
because that's bogged down the traffic there, right?
Yeah, about it, and it fills out the import lot, and just a big.
I mean, there's a lot of issues that I'm hearing about. I just came from the Arquero meeting right now, and how messed up River Road is, and how people use it as a parking lot, and all kind of other things that.
I can give you another.
That's a
tip.
whole
Yeah,
other
but I can
issue.
tell you, when that one finishes, you hit Mines Road, and you're ready to cross the Killen, just straight. There's a turnaround to the left, then you have a middle to go straight.
Yes.
And then you have your left to turn to your right. The first two should be able to make a left, and that will alleviate a lot of the traffic.
Oh, it's only a
because
singular turn.
It's only a singular.
I see what you're saying,
Yeah,
yeah.
I just send a message to the traffic department on that, because, I mean, if they can let the first two make a left turn, that would decongest a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it's getting a little bit congested on traffic, car traffic.
Well, no, I mean, no, you're right to bring it up. I mean, transportation is economic development, so, I mean, they go hand in hand. Yeah, it's not recruiting a company, but a company's not gonna come if there isn't good transportation.
But the riverbank was made for cars, not for commercial, but for
Yeah.
the people that don't have to take Mines Road. We can remove cars from Mines Road, it'll be better for the
So you
truck.
probably know about the development that, whatever the name of the gentleman is that, he's actually upstairs right now, proposing 500 new homes back behind.
Joe
the road.
Medina?
Yes, sir.
Joe Medina.
Are you
So-
talking about Joe Medina?
I'm not sure, I haven't meet him, but that's, so
It's also
imagine,
true, he agrees that
there's only one gentleman up there now talking about that development, but they're talking about adding 500 homes, right? United's gonna add a middle school back there, so you're talking about buses now, you're talking about kids walking around, and that's all in that, area, so.
Cars.
Yeah, so you have to back up a lot of, and, I mean, I know Julian's probably,
But you're,
frustrated with that, but that's a lack of planning, and having all that mixed together.
That's all I'm hearing right now.
but you're talking about Arquero and taking it all the way to Pico Road? Is that what you're talking about?
The kiddo would go,
Straight?
toward the river across that creek there, and
yeah, it
that,
would go toward Pico Road. It
Yeah,
would
Pico
go
Road?
toward.
Is that what they're talking about?
yeah.
So then the most of the property and who's donating the right of way is Mr. Joe Medina.
Yeah.
The one before that is La Bota, which
Yeah.
is the mother that they want.
So is that proposal fit the comprehensive plan?
Oh, for sure it doesn't. However,
wrong.
Mr. Snyderman was in part of the meeting, and I think the development cannot be turned back now, right? What Councilman Algilt is.
What does that mean? Cannot be,
Well, they've got it planned out, it was done some
It's
time
in
ago.
motion.
Yes, it is.
Was it done before we had our plan?
Our comp plan is about 2 years old now.
So I don't know the answer to that question.
On that, on a couple things.
Yes.
If it's the area, I think it is, that's right where the cinder block wall is, where the bridge, it's right behind there, I heard they're developing. Or no, not quite.
Isn't there a bunch of
Well,
warehouses?
Actually, you
I guess
pass, you come on the World Trade, you come to the bottom, you see Mario Palos.
Yeah, exactly.
Right in front, there's a ghetto, there's like an apartment complex.
Yes.
And you make a left, and
Okay.
there it'll take you.
Yeah, so that's one thing I know in what I've seen a pattern of, sometimes is that the communication, there's definitely gaps. So I think that would be, I'm not sure who's all involved in this, but I know the federal government's very limited now to what they could do to expand that bridge and their operations and customs.
Agreed.
And so I don't know if the people involved in that thought of that or not, or communicated with them or not. On another note, real quick though, because I know I always see headlines where, Congressman Guerra got so many millions of dollars for, the sound for the residences around the airport, yet I still see more residences getting built right across the street from the airport. And without looking into it and being versed on those things, I don't understand it. But I know some people that live close to World Trade Bridge, and they say it's like a jet going by your house. And I don't know if anybody's ever looked at, or what that cost is, that if these houses are getting built to already withstand those sound levels, or if there's any money, just like there's always millions of dollars going
So I can
in.
partially answer that. So what's
Yeah.
crazy about that is, this is where planning comes into play. Doing that actually costs money, because then the city has to mitigate the sound levels. And the homeowner doesn't cover that cost.
Okay,
But
so
who was
having
there
them built
first? Who was there
preventative, like, so building them to already be able to withstand that noise
So to be
is
honest,
more costly than going back
I don't
and
think they-
retrofitting? Or nobody thinks about it until somebody's complaining?
and then I think there's a contractor that, I may be completely wrong, but I think there's a contractor that works with the city, then the city has to go in and fix the homes with the proper sealants and everything.
I don't know if this applies here, but this could be the case where, unlike the airport, where it has a lot of older housing stock there, those houses have been there a really long time before the airport became a commercial airport, and therefore sometimes you can qualify for remediation, or mitigation, sound mitigation funding from the federal government. But in the bridge's case, the bridge was there, neighborhoods showed up, in most cases later, so it's hard to find funding or sympathy sometimes in the government for getting those folks, mitigated in terms of sound.
Do we require the developers that are purposely, because
Yeah, I don't know that.
as a broker, I will easily say on the residential side, home buyers are not as advanced as people really truly think. And I don't fault them for that at all. Should they know construction costs? Should they know those things? No, that's a whole specialty, and a very complicated specialty. So do you know, and this may not be a question for you, so an easy answer can be, I don't know. Does the city require if these developments, like for example, right across from the airport, that's a brand new development. Were those homes built to a different standard?
Your question
It
is.
should, but
Yeah,
that's
you're
not
right.
always the answer.
That was gonna be my answer. They likely do have different standards, but I couldn't answer here, with.
I bet $100 they don't.
Yeah, and then when we get grant money, I mean,
But we're pillow no
we're
más
fighting for all this
por
grant money, and then to have a fraction of it, significant fraction, and go into, it's almost the same concept, and they wanted to start hiking the water bill to patch up, and it's like, well, who's making these roads not to withstand the weight that we expect it to be on? It's like.
Yeah.
The heavy,
And that always falls, and I guess, at least I can speak about how I've always kind of viewed what we need to be doing now, is the city is really, we have the comprehensive plan, we have the economic development plan, and I think everyone seated here hopefully agrees with me that that's pretty much the directive from this committee, is to follow, and I know there's a summary, and as much as you can, and what I would hope is when there's things that are being done that don't follow the directive, that it's stated. And because I think there's a lot of times where we just kind of get distracted and we go to try to do something else when the answers are in that document, and it's a roadmap. And I think it needs to be stated if we're diverting from that.
Yeah.
And say,
It
you know
should
what?
be dynamic, in other words, the plan should be, we should be looking at it and.
It's on my desk right now. It's open and on my desk. I promise you can go look right
No,
now.
I saw it there on the side.
Yeah. Yes, I wanted to mention one thing, and I'll give Mr. Forget Judge Miller, no, Mr. Miller from the new airport director, maybe in 2 months to come, but he is just about to launch a master plan, a land use plan for the airport, in and outside of the fence. So you probably would be interested to see how that's going in the process, but that's gonna address some of the challenges around the airport, and then also how we can be better at economic development around the airport.
That's great news,
Yeah.
but hopefully we then stick to it.
I can't guarantee you that.
And
Those are elected leaders that make those
long-term
decisions.
potential partners.
Right now, we're making
Because what happened to
plans.
the Air Force potentially coming back, the Air Force Base, that was a couple years ago, and I don't think anybody ran with it.
Actually,
Well, a lot of those
Mr.
things require long-term planning,
Of course.
and if we keep going squirrel to every single project,
Oh, yeah.
we're gonna fail on those bigger projects.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, Congressman Cuellar wanted to build something with several agencies in the airport and bring some.
Like a customs or something,
Yeah,
right?
it's
There is
a plan for that. No?
I don't know where it is on status-wise, but there is a plan for that. I'm sorry, you were gonna say something?
I'll save it for later.
This is gonna be very juicy.
We had some pilots come and talk about, remember,
Yeah.
how the airport is not friendly at all.
With a private business.
With private, they're pinche, in other words, just the way the guy said it. I mean, they're not nice at all.
They would ask them for their visit or
No,
their IDs, like.
And it has
times
two
a day.
fencing where nobody else, we're different than any other airport.
I
I
can't-
had a director who never directed an airport before.
Well, I can't speak to
What's in that?
I can't speak for Mr. Miller. However, we've already had a couple of conversations regarding economic development, and one of them lasted about 2 hours or so. And my feeling is that he's going in the right direction. I need to work with him. The airport has a lot of potential for economic development. So he's doing the land use. He's doing another. The airport had already employed some consultants for their terminal. So they're going through, and he pointed out to me like about 10 things that are really wrong about how the terminal is being used.
Yeah.
Right? Not the building itself, but how there's a lot of dead space and that they don't have the right concessions in there. So trust me, he's getting to it. It's just gonna take a little bit of time to turn that ship.
Well,
And
most people go to an airport, they go to the sterile area, even though they're not flying to sea.
Yeah,
And here you can't. The only time you can go to the sterile area if you're gonna fly.
yeah, that's the thing that TSA really, our security issues have ruined a lot of places like that. But maybe that's something that Jeff can address.
Yeah, that was the other issue that we thought, oh, yeah, where can we go watch the plane touchdown? I mean,
Yeah.
you wanna take your kids to,
Yeah.
do that.
Can't do that,
The security thing.
Yeah, the security messed a lot of things up. I mean, Amarillo had that same issue until they were able to expand. McAllen had the same issue until they were able to expand. McAllen expanded the airport, they only added one gate, but they had to pay like about, 30, or was it $29 million to expand the airport. But really, it was all dealing with security in the space, man, because they made things so tough. And I think we're thankful for the security, but it is a real hassle, and local governments are having to pick up the tab.
Well,
on that.
it's like the security, they were saying, they had to meet a quota, so sometimes they check the same guy 2-3 times.
20 times a day.
Yeah, going in and coming out.
And then,
There's a lot of stuff on the table to talk about, but I did want to, in the interest of time, I did want to mention two things, three things that I really want to let y'all think about, and maybe we can, talk about next meeting or whatever. But one is, I was telling John that there's a lot of things happening in Laredo, and I'm gonna work my hardest to get to everything. But it's such a dynamic city. We have the industrials and the bridges and the airports and the downtowns, and so there's a certain amount of bandwidth. And if you want to be really good at this thing, you have to figure out what's the priority. So I'm kind of working with the city managers, the city council, mayor. They're all, giving me advice along with the EDAC committee here to try to figure out what is it that we're gonna, focus on. But number two, I'm enjoying that. It's a lot of fun. But a couple of things I think that we can get to real short term is an EDA grant or the application for an EDA grant to get broadband downtown. Okay, it's happening very. It's a common practice now for EDA to hand out money. EDA is the Economic Development Agency, the federal government, to hand out money for broadband. But you have to have a really good proposal together. You have to make your grant hum, right? Make it sing really good. and then chase it with some government relations.
Can we in some way tie Mile 1 and that area and possibly rebrand it as an innovation district on and attack? How do you make it look?
Yes, well,
That's my question.
well, that's the thing. I haven't even looked at the application. I do subscribe to EDA's emails, right? And I've never applied for that particular grant. I've applied for other ones through the EDA. But hey, whatever they need, that's what we ought to do. And if they need, if it helps us to brand ourselves as an innovation district, then that's what we ought to do.
So like broadband, what do you mean, free internet for downtown?
Yeah, a lot,
That's part of the
Wi-Fi.
comp plan. That's in the comp
That's
plan.
in the comp plan.
Yeah,
A free Wi-Fi.
right, exactly.
So if I can say anything to that sentiment is, I know you're being pulled in many directions. I hope you look at this organization not as a sounding board, but so pertaining to that, I'd love to sit down with you on that and get Mile 1 involved in seeing, take some bandwidth off you, because there's a lot of people in Laredo, and I feel like this has been missed a lot of the time, that you can tap into. It will assist in these things.
That's in the comp plan, the incubators and.
Yeah, I met with
Cesar.
Cesar yesterday.
Okay.
And no, he seems like a willing partner. By the way, one of those 51 meetings, 3 of them have been with Olivia. I wanted to make sure and meet with her and go to their board meetings and make sure that we have a collaborative relationship. I mean, their politics are what they are, but on my level, I have to work with everybody. And so in order to get things done, that's what I'm looking for. I met with LC twice, LEDC 3 times, and so those are the kind of partners that we're looking for. But yes, of course, which brings me to my second food for thought thing, and I wanted to make sure to bring to the group is I was able to, the very limited time here, I was able to get some funding for an effort that we'd like to launch for another downtown initiative, and that's to do a Shark Tank-like competition for entrepreneurs. What this would focus on is, let me just back up by saying we have a program for incentives for people who want to buy buildings and restore them and put their business in there, et cetera, right? And that's a big effort.
Is that the facade improvement grant?
That's
Or-
gone away.
Yeah,
by the way.
that's so.
Yeah, so-
What's the one you're referring to?
This one is something new.
Okay.
Totally new. And so what I want to concentrate on is getting some funding into the entrepreneur's hands, right? So they're not worried about restoring a building, then building a business in there. There's plenty of building owners downtown. Some aren't doing anything, some are, right? But if we can get focused on the people who are creating, say, a pizza shop or a coffee shop or something of that nature, and help them with their rent, with their business plan, right? And other things, other big bills that they might have to start to launch, maybe for their first 7 months or first 9 months, then that would improve their chances to exist. It would also help diversify downtown and add some of the things that we really want downtown, or we say we do. And thirdly, I think it would also motivate a few folks that are building owners and are doing renovations to maybe try to move a little faster maybe on some of their buildings, because they know there are going to be some folks available. I don't have the rules down yet. I don't have the action plan. We just got approved last Thursday for the funding, which is $60,000. And so I pitched it as a pilot program. Let's see if it'll work. Maybe we can help. And this is, again, we're thinking out loud here with the budget, $60K, is maybe we can help 6 businesses. So we go through the competition, and then 6 businesses are picked, and then those 6 would get funding for us to mitigate their rent and maybe the electricity or something for the first X amount of months. But there'll be some clawbacks in there. For instance, it won't be all their rent. We want them to have some skin in the game. They have to report into us after 30 days, after 90 days. And this is where I would need some partners like from SBDC. So a small business counselor can sit with them and say, hey, Where are you? Do you have cash flow? Or do you see a problem coming up? Where are you? Because as you all know, small business, I mean, it's a tough situation. That's why a lot of them close down. So if we funded 6, not all 6 are gonna make it. But that's what small business is, right?
That's what pilot is.
Yeah.
I have a couple.
So we wanna try
A couple questions.
Yes,
on that.
ma'am.
Where does the 60,000 come from?
from the city.
Okay, that's one question. The other question is there's quite a few people in the last year or two that have already put their skin in the game and they might be struggling. So I don't know if maybe you do 5 and then maybe allocate the other 10 towards helping the other ones that are already there stay in business, if that's a need or not.
Well,
but
yes, we need to go through that to figure out what exactly we're gonna do. The thing is that it's a competition, so perhaps we don't have to limit it to just new businesses.
oh yeah, you could. Well, like you said, you don't
As
know what
long
the
as you
rules are
follow
going to
the
be.
rules, no?
But and then.
But we do want new businesses, that's the thing.
And then another thing, we're constantly talking about, doing things for downtown, inventing downtown. I don't know the answer, but I don't know if the CVB is aligned with that as well. When there's advertising dollars, when there's some things, you think of Laredo as a port, but then you look at El Financiero in Mexico City and they're advertising the shopping. Or you're already 30 miles away from the city, there's a billboard for the shopping. And I tell people when I go out of town, younger adults, like, I've had a conversation with the waitress talking about how she used to love going to a certain part of San Antonio before it started becoming too busy, or like how they say 6th Street in Austin or something. So I tell them, you know what? Come downtown. You like dive bars, you like, whatever you want to go somewhere where you're not going to be caught in traffic and it's not going to take you 20 minutes to get a drink. And so we have to really look at those areas where maybe there's some nostalgia of how it used to be that we're still developing.
Yeah.
So we still have that. So I just want to make sure anything we put in, that we're backing that up with that marketing as a city,
Yeah.
that they're supporting those types of messages as well,
Yes.
that we could potentially tap into a millennial, college kids on, whatever, a long weekend or whatever it is that we want to target that are already going to bars in certain areas and would love to discover a new little city to them, new to them, let's say.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question in terms of what they do or how they market Laredo or downtown, but I'm getting to that. There's other departments I haven't met with yet.
Uh-huh.
But in terms of this program related to what you're saying, is there's definitely a marketing component to it. I think the competition itself and us announcing it, once we get all our ducks in a row, would draw a lot of attention in and of itself to that competition. But the focus for me is to make sure that people know about downtown, right? We're doing something for entrepreneurs, right? By the way, I already reached out to Cesar about this. One of the reasons.
Is that where you're most likely gonna host it with them? Like a partnership? or-
Yeah, likely. Yeah, I mean, it's real early for me to say.
Yeah.
But that's the idea. They know downtown, they know small business, so, but the idea is for us to spark some entrepreneurship and some innovation downtown, and also to create those other things, to create some shops that we don't have. So that's another thing that we can do. We can kind of get the rules to where if it's, for instance, it's not just bars that would apply for this, because we have bars now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need
right?
food.
But we need food.
Yeah, we need food.
Right, and other things.
So we're good at food.
And if we do, and if we do a really good job with this one, then maybe we can get additional funds for our next round, the next year, and maybe do the process again.
So essentially, it's almost an accelerator.
Yeah.
I know of a program, and I already brought this up one of the first meetings of the group in Detroit. I have a restaurant owner friend that I know, and he went through, it was privately funded through philanthropy,
Yep.
but it was the same concept. It was go to a part of Detroit that they're trying to liven up again, revamp, and it's some type of collaboration with the building owners, where some of the money went to fixing the building as needed for the restaurant or whatever business, but it also included a mentor and mandatory business classes. So maybe there's some rules posted or somewhere I
Yes.
could find where you guys could kind of pick and choose what works for here.
Yeah, I'm already thinking about that, and that's another thing that we can engage as
And it was
CR.
competitive. There was public voting on one round, and so there was a lot of different ways to do it. But I think the key is to not just hand out and then the skin in the game, but make sure you have the resources to
There-
ensure success as best as we can. That's
Yeah.
where that marketing comes in and all that other supportive things that might not be directly that 60,000,
Yeah.
but just any other support.
No, I agree with you.
You hear a lot that there's not opportunity. And I think what that really translates to a lot of the time is there's no support structure here. So I think this is a great example of how.
Yeah, I'm excited about it, man. I'm excited
That,
about it.
believe it or not, I think that's to me economic development. You
Right.
know, small businesses, because that ties into, you know, the opportunity of our current citizens, and not to mention, like, you're talking about food, you're talking about culture, you're talking about,
Yeah.
so on a tourism basis, that's great.
And that's where we need the philanthropy part, which could probably match
Well,
60,000.
Well, here's the thing.
Angel investors possibly.
Short term for this pilot program, I want to reach out, and I told Cesar this, that I need to reach out to the private sector for additional funds. So I can say, I'm not going to them for the funds. We can say, well, we have 60K, can you do 10? Can you do, 5 or whatever? And in that case, we can, bolster what the money that we have.
American Express.
What yours? I'm sorry.
You mentioned, we're talking about.
We're talking about philanthropists because we wanted to.
So
have
y'all started
somebody-
looking at John right away?
No,
we've asked him
What we're
stuff.
saying is that we needed somebody from the philanthropy part of this town
anybody
to be
that-
in this table.
and you
Because
can-
if there's ideas like this, maybe they'll say, okay, we'll match the 60,000.
This is an early idea,
So-
just to address your point, this is an early idea. Granted, keep in mind, this is a pilot program.
Yes.
So, in my, opinion, the city council doesn't really know me yet, right? So, but yet they said, okay, you know what, we're gonna do the 60 grand for this pilot program. They didn't give me any extra money in my budget. I mean, I don't even have pencils on my desk, but they did put 60 grand in for this program, right? And so I appreciate that from them. So there's gonna be a little panel of judges for this shark contest. So, I was, thinking, okay, so who's gonna be on that panel? Well, let's knock it down to 5 people. But I think that the downtown councilman should be there, and maybe the mayor in this initial one. And then we have to have a business owner from downtown,
Yeah.
right? Whoever that is. And then.
Somebody like Alma can be part of it.
And then
You want-
another person can be like Cesar, so he
Not
knows the
necessarily
deal,
downtown yet.
right?
They've already ran some startup competitions, so
Yeah.
he has that.
And then like, I don't really have to be on it, but it could be someone like myself, but the point is, we'll have a diverse group. Yes, there should be folks, I mean, Julian's here, but we don't have that downtown presence here on this committee.
Yeah.
But I like what Arturo says is that, and it works, as you well know, it works in donations is, there's 60, okay, can somebody match it or add to it? So
Yeah.
I mean, the
60
fact
could
is-
be 80, 100, 120.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
yeah,
she mentioned the philanthropy part, and in Detroit, so that's what we need.
It's a lot of, I've had the conversation with people, Dr. Schaffler, TMU, and things like that, is that there is philanthropy here, but, I mean, I'm from San Diego, every museum, everything was something donated by a private, you know what I mean? And-
We're not on that level.
Yeah, we're not, and of course, it started that way, but I mean, who knows, maybe there's somebody who has an acre, they want to convert it to a botanical garden, but I don't know if it's worth it to run with a project like that, but there's a lot of things that philanthropy can do that we don't normally see here.
right, and this is not even, that's a great point, because this is not your traditional philanthropy deal. We're saying you're gonna be part of the downtown renaissance. You can get on the ground floor of helping renovate downtown.
And you could be creative with your donations too, because you could there's a marketing company or a print advertising company or somebody who could donate logo services. Or, you don't always have to go, hey, who's gonna give me $10,000? Because chances are, those are the same donors that are already stretched thin, giving 10,000 to everybody who asks, and so, and it also, that might also cause restrictions on what we're allowed to move forward on and whatnot, because it might not fall with somebody's values, or it might compete, or whatever it is, you never know, there's always strings attached. If I may, I know you have your agenda, and I'm so sorry that I even attended late,
Nah, it's
but
got a loose agenda.
I know you, when I
Well, if
came,
you
I
want
sat
to
in, you started
subject-
with
Can I just
textile.
finish up here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me just say, so I'm gonna work on this, me and my staff, me.
Myself and I, yes, sir.
The next couple of months before I would come back with some sort of draft for y'all to look at, but it would probably be, I mean, I would say like 60 days at least before I could get a good handle on all the different things that ought to be included in it before I come back to y'all.
I just asked you to work with Mall One because this is
Already
perfect
done,
partnership.
already reached out, yeah.
If you need a helping hand in anything, I'm sure I speak for the committee. Feel free to reach
Yes,
out.
I definitely want to leverage, all the
Yeah.
brains here, all the resources.
Talking
Thank you.
about something for downtown, and we mentioned the Fastens, if we can push that Civic Center thing, because that would cause for needs for business.
The conference center.
Convention center.
Oh.
I know when I sat down, you were talking about the World Trade Bridge and TxDOT and things like that. So I was, or Thurlow as well, we went to Washington DC with the city on this last trip in March.
Just small.
And I believe you were there with TxDOT, I don't know if you were with TSA, well, TSA Transportation, sorry. But there was one thing you mentioned, that how come Laredo gets the 200 million or whatever it is when people look at the size and things like that. So we went to the federal office with TxDOT and they were like, hey, you guys talk about at a state level to make it more based on the needs, not the size. But then they came to us and were like, but as TxDOT, we can only do so much. We need people to push that on the federal level as well. And I don't recall, but I know there was already things in motion, or there was maybe something thrown out there already to where that may or may not be an objective, is to get those changes made legally. So we're looked at based on the need of moving $300+ billion a year and not having a population of 270.
Yeah.
And on that note, we as the private sector need to start communicating with the city on any upcoming legislative trips that we are allowed to attend, like the annual ones in Austin and DC, because for us as private sector, we've already had this discussion where if we're going to continue to participate, we need a better heads up than the one we got this last March.
What was the last one that you got?
We got the agenda like in DC, and then we all went going infra grant, and everyone else was like, oh no, we've got other things on the agenda. A lot of us that went on in the private sector were really hoping that the focus would be the needs of us as a port. And that wasn't always the top priority in some of these meetings that we had in the government.
What would be good is for you to invite them to the next G13 meeting.
Yeah.
I'm as part of the G13. I don't know if you know what the G13, she can explain to you all the different.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so through the initiative of the chamber and one of the active businesses, we created, IBC. Through the initiative of IBC, Mario Peña, who's now retired, he was a chairman of the chamber, or past chairman, and they got the president of every business association that we could get to attend a meeting. And it ended up being, loosely, it's 13 of us. This includes the university, the college, the realtors, the builders, the motor carriers, the custom brokers, the freight forwarders, LEDC, downtown merchants, Logistics and Manufacturing Association, and then I think we have the RMA, loosely is or is not one of the 13, Asociación de Empresarios Mexicanos, which is the Mexican citizens that invest. And then I would be missing one, and
The realtors?
I know who. I don't know. I'm missing somebody. Someone's gonna yell at me for this one. Who am I missing? I'm missing somebody. But yeah, the college, the university, the chamber. I think the chamber. I think Laredo College, TAMU. So the president of each organization sits at the table and we meet. And originally it was formed because we felt that there was a disconnect. I think there was one particular thing City Council was working on passing that we felt was it was a setback for the business community to prosper. I don't remember exactly which business community or what it was, but it was something that we all kind of started meeting on and talking about how there is. It was the signs for business fronts, and then the bridge tolls came later. We were lucky we were already formed when the bridge tolls came, but even then that only got us so far. But now there's a bit more dialogue between, the bridge department and the custom brokers and the freight forwarders and the motor carriers. Now there's more dialogue on all this stuff, and it's just so important because, they say one hand washes the other. You're gonna need private dollars to help fund public things or public money to make sure it goes into what the trends are and what the needs are. If we're talking about putting a bridge there or expanding a bridge there, what is the current need based on the businesses. So it's very nice that we all have a voice and we have an opportunity to discuss what's affecting our different
When's the
industries.
next meeting?
We don't have set meetings at this moment. It just depends. If you want to give me your availability, maybe shoot me 2 or 3 times that work for you, and we'll reach out to G13.
Just tell me when it is. I'll make time. I'll make time for it.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean my schedule's
Yeah.
gets messed
Yeah,
up.
it's primarily right now, we don't have a dedicated admin or any, really rules or regulations. We just try to keep it the heads and just talk about what the needs are and what's going on. And that's when we went to DC and we helped with what we
Did
could.
y'all go to Austin as well?
I personally did not, you did.
I didn't go. Oh, yeah, we went to Austin.
Oh, that's right.
We went to Austin.
Yeah, and then one of the issues with the Austin trip is that it happens early in the year.
Mm-hmm.
Because it coincides with the big invitation for Washington's birthday celebration.
Right.
But counter that is that the committees aren't formed in Austin, so we
They weren't
really
formed
don't
yet.
have
Yeah.
a specific
No,
target plan.
As y'all know from my application and y'all's discussions, in the hiring process is that, I did the government relations deal for about a dozen years, right? And so one thing I'll leave you with on that topic is those Austin trips are very important, right? Or these DC trips as well.
Yeah.
However, and I would encourage any city to do that or organization, nonprofit, whatever, you gotta do it. However, the real work for what you wanna get done starts this January in the off year. And if you're not working your issue from January to October, the chances that your issue gets, done or gets slimmer by the day. Because come October and November, first bills are filed in November, people already know what the agendas are. All these elected leaders, they know what their issues they're gonna try to tackle. And they know because they've been hearing from their constituents all summer and the
Yeah.
spring. So if you're not on there, the 4A, 4B, if we wait till the end, it's not gonna happen. So we need to be in Greg Abbott's office and make sure that all our elected leaders are lined up, right, with that, if that's what we want to do, or whatever the issue might be. You need to do that now. And also during that off season, like in the spring, there's some committee hearings, the homework that the governor and the Speaker of the House gives the committees to meet over the summer, but no one's in their offices. I mean, in terms of like other groups and constituents, you go to Austin, everybody's there, crowding. Hey, I need just 1 minute. Everybody's piling in. You get them over the summer and spring, they'll take time with you. You can take them to lunch. You can talk about your issue, on like real people. Once you get to Austin, it's a different situation. And so, whatever those issues are, whatever you have with your own groups, I would recommend you work in the spring and the summer to get what you need done. Because that's where the work is done.
I think a lot of these groups already go frequently as private individual groups.
But at the national level, that I've been there for 20 years, one, you have to leave something in writing. If you don't leave anything in writing, you won't get nothing. The other one, if you want to build, if you want something, you have to take it written.
You write it.
You have to write it for them. They're not going to write anything there.
White papers?
And they're there to not make laws, to bring them, shut them down. That's what they're
Now,
for.
and to me, DC's a lot tougher than Austin, because in Austin, everyone's friendly. Hey, you from Laredo? Oh yeah, my cousin's from Laredo. I've been to Laredo, my wife. You go to DC,
Yeah.
you can see like, hey, I want to talk to Tom, he's right there. Hey, I'd like to talk to Tom, he's not here. Tom's not meeting with people today.
There's some
Where are you
snowflakes out
from?
there.
Are you in the district? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a little bit different, but then again, the people that do the work is their
Yeah, you gotta know
assistants,
both
the legislative assistants.
nuances.
They're the ones that write notes and they take notes and they understand a lot of the issues. You just have to talk to the people that work
Yes,
those
sir.
issues. And you can,
Yes.
Technical question. What would you like to see from our group? I mean, I know we've been addressing you, but what would you like to see from our group? I don't know if you've ever worked with a group like ours before, but
I've worked with boards that actually run the organization, not an advisory committee. I've seen the relationships similar, but moving forward, I think y'all did that today. Is you lend your expertise to some of the things that I'm involved in, some of the initiatives that we might move forward on. Y'all have a wealth of knowledge, So those contributions is what I welcome, especially as a newcomer. Yeah, I've been to Laredo a lot of times, but I never had to live and work here and try to succeed. And so those things really help me.
Very good.
Talking about, I'd like to mention one thing because I haven't heard anything after that. We had, I think, Olivia had said something in the business deal. We missed out on a big project because we don't have the infrastructure, the water, the light. Is there anything that they can start, the city can start so that we can have that next time something like this comes up, where it doesn't go away?
You mean water and sewer and things
The
like that?
water and sewer for big
Which project
time
was
deal.
that?
And
The
it's
Steel
expensive.
Dynamics, when they went to Corpus,
Okay.
Where they already decided to go there? I thought-
Yep.
it was Laredo a mile or something just to get it set up or something along.
All we needed was a mile?
$1 million, no, it was like $1 million
Dollars a
for
mile.
utilities.
Oh, yeah.
Or something along those lines.
I know they're addressing I know that the water issue is being addressed right now. Obviously, as you know, there's some real challenges with it, but the meetings I have been in the last month, which is not very long history, but I know the south side is getting water and sewer, and then they're taking care of this north side issue with the Pico plant or whatever that was. I'm not as well versed on what all the problems were,
Well,
but
part of it was just to get all the affluents all the way to, all the sewerage to the plants, because there was some
yes, that's the
some
issue.
bottlenecks.
That's
So
right.
you saw some of the people working around around the mall, trying to get that, of course, the money to.
In my first city council meeting, there was about a 50-minute discussion for one item, and it was all about the
Well, yes,
The
the
north
water
side
rates
plants.
and stuff like that.
the water sewer deal.
What I hope though, because this is the first time the city has someone representing the city specifically on deals like this one that fell through. I don't know what it was really worth or, the long-term perspective, but, $1 million a mile, would that have cost the city to, let's say we ran for it, we chased the car. Would that take us 50 years to recoup in the amount of investment to get that company? Was it really worth it? And I hope that you do. Yeah, the cost benefit is, don't be short-sighted, because it's easy to be like, you know what, we brought a company here, but what did it cost us? Did it increase quality of life? Did it bring higher paying jobs? Because I think we always kind of get lost of, we're chasing the car and we finally catch it, and then we kind of realize, well, we did all these incentives, we did all these things. Was it worth it to the city? And it's measurable, not just money, but multiple things.
Let me add to that. If we catch that car, how many more cars are gonna come on their own without us having to chase them, because now we've got.
Well, yeah, we need to, that's what I'm saying, I think there's
Yeah,
more than
but
money to
down,
measure,
I mean,
but let's.
How did Black and Decker end up in Mission, or was it Mission?
Yeah.
Well, that's not a good example, but I hear what you're saying. They ended up in Mission because they got scared of Trump, and they said, we need to make a sizable U.S. investment. Where's the closest place we can find a warehouse?
Well, we got them here, we're the transportation out of the.
But everybody else is there for a reason.
Yeah, and that's one thing
And
too,
we used to have
it's like
Monkey,
Toyota having its plant going in Mexico. And I met with someone in charge of Toyota, and I said, who are you talking to down here? He's like, Laredo doesn't have carriers that are capable of handling what we need, and they wanted a cost off, and they're still talking about it, or whatever it was. This was probably 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. And that's where groups like Minority Business, they encourage strategic partnerships and joint, strategic alliances and joint ventures and all this other stuff. And that's where when I first sat down, you talked about those groups. Being more versed on those things will really help.
See,
All
that
these little
makes sense,
puzzle
because
pieces.
like Laredo, you look at, we have more warehouses in San Antonio to Austin combined. I mean, in other words, in transportation, I think we have that every
And that's where you need to see, what are they looking at then? Are they looking at,
Or
okay, yeah, it only takes me half an hour.
misinformed, or maybe they weren't educated, but it doesn't, I mean, the statement that was made, to me, doesn't seem accurate.
What Julian was saying, pardon me, I'm sorry, and what you were saying regarding the companies, yeah, I mean, that's a balancing act for any economic developer. I mean, I'm sure that from Olivia to the San Antonio Foundation, and I think they're called Development Council now, that's the balancing act that you have to figure out, like, what's the cost benefit? Should we go for it? could it be the beginning of a cluster, even if we
Yeah,
have to
it's-
pay a
it's
little bit
right.
more for it
Okay,
right,
so
up
we're on the
front?
same page.
Right, so,
Yeah.
no, those are important, and that's what we're looking at. I mean, we can do some of that here.
You do it in less than one
Uno le llama al otro.
You mentioned 4A4B. You mentioned that before, you guys talked about
It's
that?
a fact.
It's just I feel like.
Is that a high agenda item for you to figure out how we can get that?
Not right now, but it will be soon, it's probably a few months.
Okay, because that's gonna be why we need to go back to Austin more frequently now.
And that's the issue I was talking about. You know, finding key people, especially the attorneys in the governor's office that review legislation, getting them to understand, because obviously the governor's not reading it himself.
Right.
But this past, I'll be honest with you, in my opinion, any city-related tax issue that was going before the governor was not gonna get out of his office. Because this past was open season on cities.
Yeah,
Right.
they're coming after us.
They went after cities big time.
They're trying to slow the growth.
And so, cities paid.
They want to keep the people from California from coming back.
Well, yeah, and the people from
And
California
so,
want to go to cities.
they limited
keep
tax
cities.
rates down to the 3.5% before it triggers an election. It went from 8 to 3.5%. Just about any initiative that cities had, whether it was taxes or not, it was killed by the governor's office, or it was killed in the Senate. And so, it wasn't a good time to ask. You gotta ask anyway, no, nothing wrong with that, but that's why it didn't come out. It really wasn't because, hey, he hated Laredo. Dallas didn't get anything.
He just didn't like
Matt Allen didn't
cities.
get anything. Yeah. Well, and politically, and this is the reality, is in a lot of core cities, that's where the R's are not.
That's right, and that's why we don't get near out of Austin what Houston or Dallas does. And that, you know, I would think this is kind of political. If we had at least 40% voting here with an R, or 45% at the highest, it doesn't care if we never voted, you know, everything for, but you'd have some representation, they'd feel some obligation to take care of some of these people.
If you ask Congressman Query, he sent like $200 million to Austin, and we've only got like $100,000. I mean, he'll tell you the exact number.
Well, that's
It's incredible.
That's a conversation, you know, to be had maybe some other day, but there are political realities in economic development and,
That's one of
but in my case, you know, I work closely with whoever's in office, and whether a D or an R, an independent, and, you know, I try to make them aware of what, Laredo has and how that's gonna benefit the state and the country, and that's what's most important.
Sometimes it's education, sometimes it's the problem, sometimes that's what you gotta tell them what's going on.
But, you know, that's what it is in Austin, you just gotta know how to work it, man.
Okay,
But-
we've
Yes,
had
sir.
1 hour. I don't know if y'all
Yeah.
want to go into another topic.
Did you already approve the minutes or no?
Yeah, we already approved the minutes, so I don't know if I know that time is of the essence for you
Yes, sir.
all. I don't know if y'all want to, anything else that you might want to,
I had emailed you, and I don't know, you met with Olivia, maybe you already know about the Logistics and Manufacturing Symposium?
Yes, yes.
Are you planning on
yes,
attending?
Yes, I'm
Oh, that's
attending.
great news.
Yeah.
That is gonna be September 10th and 11th, if anybody else is interested in going,
They should have brought the
It's-
dynamic steel guy to talk.
at the university.
Yeah.
So we can learn something.
Well, the Port of Corpus is always present for the most part, so I mean, they let us know a lot of what they have going on. So that's one thing, but since Carlo Milano is the person I reached out to for industrial park tour, we decided to wait till after the symposium because he's chairing the symposium. So I had send that email out about Port Grande, and I know we have to divide it so we don't have the quorum. But he did want me to extend the invitation to you as well. He's in commercial real estate. Port Grande is over on exit 13, if you're familiar. It's out-of-state investor, so just kind of see the potential, what 300,000 square feet of warehouse looks like if you haven't seen
Yes,
that
put me
before.
down for that, I'll make time to.
So that'll be coordinated probably later this month, and I know you. Yeah, John was telling me that he used to be on the
Not the
committee.
day of the path of ways, right?
No, we're gonna talk about it. I brought it up last
Okay.
month,
No,
I just wanted to
perfect,
update everybody that we'll talk about it later, so, that was the one thing I think, and the other thing that I had mentioned was, the grocery store downtown, is kind of making a little pet project, if you will. I do wanna talk to Arturo Garcia and just make sure I'm on the same page with him, before I start bringing stuff to this committee, just to see where they're at with that, because I know they've already been talking about that.
Yeah, well, there is one that's gonna open, right? Was that the discussion that was had here last?
Not with
I heard
me
there's one
personally.
opening up.
Like a tiendita
Like
or
a
like?
small one.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
what we talked about was
Backyard.
the HUD meeting.
Not that one, another one. You're talking about the one under
Yeah.
the hotel.
Only one there is.
Old Time Potential.
No, I don't know. But I know the last meeting here,
Where's it
there
gonna
was
be?
still talked about like not number two.
The tienda, where,
Oh, ask Julian.
Huh?
where's this, grocery store?
By the pedestrian path when you're coming onto this side of the border, near La Costa, like right down Zaragoza.
Like
Where the
chicken.
Payless Shoes
Yeah, that's right
used
after.
to be.
Oh, where the bridge too? That bridge.
Now, I don't know what
One.
they truly meant by grocery store. Because it really is a mom and pop.
Anything else on the agenda?
No, I think we can.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Sorry, no, we can keep discussing, I just.
Yeah. No, I get it.
I-
Yeah, everything.
We can talk
So
over
we
it.
can,
I did.
Get a little.
I didn't mean to throw it, it's just for
I get it.
the meeting,
To let some people
official
out here.
meeting purpose.
Yes.
He's Stafford, right?
How you been, Rafa?
Pretty good. On the run right